look back, no use. All I ever wanted was to live on an island. I never let a good man down. Have you ever seen a sad man smiling? I never understood this world. All it really wants, leave it up down. Leave it up down. Above the storm. Leave it up down. Have you ever seen a break in the cloud? The rain's falling down, but the sunshine shining. Do you ever get lost in the sound? Turn it up loud, but the sound keeps dying. I wonder where you go when you die. It's a mystery, but I think our soul starts flying. Said I don't wanna wait so long. All you gotta do is leave it up down. Leave it up down. Above the storm. Leave it up down.
Stick Figure is so good! Above the Storm is such a perfect song for this episode, and I hope you're digging the music, because Stick Figure's music has definitely been a tune that's been driving my personal growth and healing and development, just all of it, man. Yeah, thank you, Stick Figure. Thank you, Plant Medicine. This song is called Above the Storm. It's on their new album, World of Fire. And then towards the end of the episode, you will hear the songs Dreamland and my all-time favorite, Shelter, off of Stick Figure's album, Burial Ground.
Think of thoughts and now hold them. Now you're slipping to a dream. And now you slip away to another place. Above the storms and rain, miles away, miles away.
This is Mycoverse, the Mushroom Podcast. Our guest today is David Grillot from Thank You Plant Medicine, and I'm super stoked for you guys to hear it.
Said if you're just now waking up from the sun, you want some love, and I do it just because I found a way. Just like a tale is all the time, we've been having a good time. Read the story of a life, get high with me. I've been holding on for years. I've been facing all these fears. I'm not afraid. So when you put your head to rest, man, I wish you all the best. For this life we have been blessed, I got
Dave from Thank You Plant Medicine, 2/20/2020. How are you doing?
Doing great. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I don't remember how I came across you on Instagram, but I thought it was really awesome, and you've been very high energy, just happy-go-lucky. So I'm pretty excited to do this. Tell us what Thank You Plant Medicine is all about. Like, it's a campaign, and you were inspired to do it in some awesome way. So why don't you give us that story?
Whew. Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure to share with you.
Cheering
Um,
back here.
so bueno, I'm not sure where the story begins, but I went to the World Ayahuasca Conference in June in Spain. And there, very much similar to the mushroom community, I believe, it attracted this very interesting people from around the world, from all walks of life, who were concerned about the planet and about personal and collective health. And I went to the event wondering, like, what is it that I could bring to this community? What is the little grain of salt that I can bring to this beautiful community that because ayahuasca has really done a lot for me. It's helped me heal. Magic mushrooms similarly have helped me see how much light I have inside of myself, helped me see that I can believe in myself, and that I can rise up to be a leader, and I can make good things happen on this planet. So in this spirit of gratitude, I wanted to give back to the community. And at the nearing the end of the event, we were in a little room with Rick Doblin, who's the founder of MAPS, which is one of the main psychedelic organizations. And he was talking about how the main barrier in his work and for psychedelics being accepted in society in general is the stigma that is heavy, right? You can't talk openly about it, and for fear of judgment, and you can't share your experiences. People have all these ideas about it. It's illegal in many places. You can go to jail and this and that, right? So he was saying that we should look at the gay rights movement and what they were able to do in the 70s and 80s by really standing up together and, marching together and uniting everywhere into one voice. And how, then little by little, of course it wasn't easy, but little by little, the legislation started changing in one state, the other, and the culture started shifting around it. Some celebrities came out, and now it's widely accepted, right? To be homosexual, it's not seen as a bad thing, at least I'd say for most people. So an idea was being born in my head, and I put up my hand at the end of the talk, and I said, Rick, what do you think if we did a coming out campaign among everyone who's benefited from plant medicines or mushrooms or psychedelics? What if everyone on the same day said thank you and told their story, right? Would this not combat the stigma and really create waves on social media and bring a lot of attention to the fact that there's extremely promising scientific studies, the fact that many of the top CEOs and business people are doing it, and credit it for being able to think outside the box and see things in a different way, and the fact that it's actually a very pervasive thing in our society, but it's just so stigmatized. So he said, this is a great idea. Yeah, we should do this. And a few other of the leaders in the room said, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So my mind was racing, and we walked down from that room into the final talk of the conference, which was ayahuasca and the future of society. And one person on the panel was saying, we need to be patient, and we need to be humble, and we need to integrate the teachings. And another person was saying, until the noose of capitalism is off of our necks, nothing will change in this society. And then another person was saying, we need to collaborate, and we need to, see how we can work together. But I turned to my friend John, and I was like, this is all a bit fluffy, right? Like, where's the action? Where's the really engaging this beautiful community into action to make things happen? And they said, we have 10 minutes. If anyone has a question for us before the closing ceremony, the microphone is yours. So I said to John, maybe we should present this idea to the crowd. And he said, go for it. Go. So I kind of took a deep breath and made my way to the front of the auditorium, which had about 1,000 people, all like scientists and shamans and, therapists and artists. And I said, this question is for you. And I turned to the crowd and I said, me personally, I don't share about how much ayahuasca has helped me or how much mushrooms have helped me on my social media, because I don't see any of my friends talking about it, and I'm afraid of what people will say of me. What happens if we all came out together on the same day saying, thank you, plant medicine, and this is why, and just telling the truth. And the idea was very well received. And like shortly after, like 40 or 50 people made their way to stream down the audience and gave me their contact information and were like, brother, this is a great idea. You can count on me. And I've been working with this for 12 years and I haven't told my family. And I love this idea. And I thought of this idea and like, let's do this. And so since then we've been reaching out to communities in the cannabis world, in the mushroom world, in ayahuasca, in iboga, which is, an African plant that's healing lots of people from addictions, and also with San Pedro and peyote. And almost everyone is saying like, what a great idea. Let's do this. You can count on us. So all these different families are uniting together into a shared cause, which is not to preach. It's just to tell the truth about what has happened to you and be thankful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good stuff, because I can just tell you, in the couple months that I've been like launching this podcast, it's all on Instagram. That's like, I mean, I email like companies and professors and stuff like that and reach out in that way, but it's building and building and building. And that's like the number one comment that I get, or the feedback once people start listening to this, is like, wow, thank you. Like, just hearing somebody else talk about this is so refreshing and like gives me hope, because it's everything that I've wanted to talk to people about, but I just don't, because you're not going to go to work and start talking to people about your healing experiences through psychedelic use, because it's definitely illegal. It's definitely something that not everybody has been into. We all grew up being told you're not going to be like very smart if you go down that path and take those. And they coupled using mushrooms and acid in with people that use heroin and shit like that. So it's good. Yeah. It's really, that's really cool that you got the thumbs up from Rick Doblin and all those leaders to do that. I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was super special to be at such an event that brings together people that really care about ayahuasca. And I want to start attending more of these events, because one thing I saw is like the power of coming together in person with people who share your values and beliefs. And there's just almost like an electric kind of synergies happen, and all different collaborations and partnerships pop up. And I'm sure you've found that the people that you interact with for your podcast and your audience and stuff, it's like you, to some degree, like once you try this stuff, your big ego and sense of self like kind of erodes a little bit, and you're more just like caring and loving and sensitive to the collective, and willing to talk to everyone and seeing the preciousness of every person.
Yeah, like this podcast is me. Like, I'm putting it together, but I'm being really careful with my words, because I don't want this. How do I describe this? It's the ego thing. That's a really good point, is because like this is for us. This is for all of us to have a platform, to have a voice, to get our message out there of healing and love and support, and just all of the positive, to shed away the negativity that was placed on plant medicines by people with ulterior motives that honestly probably don't care about humans in the way that you and I do. Like, that we're coming from a place of love, and it's really cool. We're a family.
Yeah, and thank you for your work in starting a podcast on this topic. It's beautiful. It's amazing, and I look forward to watching it grow and listening to it.
Thanks, man. So you're in Costa Rica, right?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us what you're doing down there? If you want, or
Sure.
how everything goes there.
I have an online job called environmental IT consultant. So I decided to move to a place where I could be the happiest. Um, I think that we are very much like plants or like mushrooms, where we each have an environment that can really be most conducive to our own growth. And so for me, it's Costa Rica because I can surf every day. The weather's great. It's a peaceful country. And I also love the Latin culture. It's so community oriented and inviting each other for dinner and open door policy. And instead of I grew up in Canada in the suburbs, and it's very much everyone builds their own little life and has a yard and a fence, and you rarely talk to your neighbors, if ever. And it's just very much on building your own life, your own personal, accumulate your own belongings and stuff. But I love that Latinos are more community oriented. So I'm super happy here. Been living here for 6 years, and I have a number of like side projects. For example, I've organized beach cleanups now for several years. Organized over 100 beach cleanups. I organize a salsa dancing club. I'm working with a friend on building a eco-friendly housing development for low-income families.
Cool.
And now with the Thank You Plant Medicine, it's almost like a full-time job. We have over 300 volunteers working with us. So we've set up all these different teams by region and by like category, like organizational reach out and social media and Facebook, Instagram, content creation, contacting the traditional press, and basically it's been such a fun project, because every single person who joins has like fire in their eyes and fire in their hearts, because plant medicine saved their lives from bulimia, or from crippling depression, or from PTSD, or chronic pain, or a digestive problem that they've had for 20 years, or all different issues. Yeah. And the common thread is that this has helped me. What can I do to raise awareness?
So are you looking for more people to help right now, or are you open for more people?
Yeah, we're looking for as many people as possible to get involved.
So where do they go to contact you for that?
Well, the easiest way is to just message our Facebook page, Thank You Plant Medicine. Just message our page, and then we have an automatic response that will send you basically all the information about how do you volunteer, etc., and more about the campaign. And we also have a Facebook group that is very active called Thank You Plant Medicine Community. And oh man, today I almost got tears in my eyes, because people just from South Africa and Japan and Ireland, everywhere, are publishing like, hey guys, like thanks for inviting me to the group. Like this is what happened to me. Like I was on the edge of death with this, and I took Iboga and it changed my life. Like I'm here to help, and I have an open heart. I'm here to help everyone. Like much love from Ireland or whatever. So it's a beautiful place to interact with the community.
It's worldwide.
Yep.
Shit. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm so sorry. That's really cool. So it's everyone across the world is now contact. That's what I wanted to ask. When did you start this? Like how long have you been working on it?
We started this, for example, June 15th, approximately June 15th, we published a video asking for 35 volunteers.
This year, June 15th.
Yeah. So that was like less than 6 months ago.
Like right around the time that Denver and Oakland decriminalized plant medicines and mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude,
so it's very much something that's happening everywhere.
Right
yeah. It's happening everywhere at once. And actually we're working with the leaders from Decrim Oakland, Decrim Denver. We're talking with them and like synergizing.
Yeah. this is really cool. Like, um, there needs to be a unified collective campaign to prove to the world that like the users of plant medicines are loving, cared individuals that are, just to shed the truth. Be like, look, guys, like this is what it is, and let's all just help each other and live to be better and progress our human race into the next level of consciousness. Really, that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, you beautifully express what we're trying to do here. That's you hit the nail on the head there.
Perfect. So do you have any specific like stories you want to share of either your own healing or other people you've seen or heard about their healings with plant medicines?
Sure, I would be happy to. Um, well, the first strong experience I had with plant medicine is an interesting one. I was traveling in Mexico in a Volkswagen van with my best friend in near Puerto Escondido in Oaxaca, Mexico, in the southwest, which is a legendary surf spot. And I had a very severe ear infection, and I basically lost hearing in one ear for about a month. And a local friend told us, have you heard that near here is a very sacred place to experience the Niños Santos, the saintly children, which is what they call the mushrooms. And he basically convinced us to go with him up into the mountains to an indigenous village and experience the mushrooms there. So we hopped into a van with a few friends, and I really had done nothing like this. Like, I may have tried mushrooms once before, but had only a very mild effect. But we fasted for a couple days, like only eating like fruits and water, and then the day of we didn't eat anything, and we took a van like up like 6 hours into the mountains to a little town called San Jose del Pacifico, which since then has become quite famous through some people making some YouTube videos on it. But it's a little town in the mountains where the indigenous people, they find mushrooms in the landslides, in like secret places in the landslides, and the mushrooms always grow in families of 7. And so you visit like an indigenous family, and they're come here, okay, for you, and then they take out like a leaf that has 7 mushrooms in it. Some of them are huge, some of them are medium, some of them are small, and they all kind of grow together. So each person gets a family. And we rented a little house in a completely isolated area where it was just like misty jungle valley, like looking down the valley as far as your eye could see, it was misty jungle, and looking up the valley as far as your eye could see, just misty infinite jungle. So you had no sense of like how high you were.
Yeah.
And no one around at all, just the sound of birds and the buzzings of exotic insects. And we took the mushrooms there, and it was such a strong experience of completely forgetting who I was, and just traveling in alternate realities and being in like Lord of the Rings scenes. At some point, I thought my friend was a plant, and I started pouring water on him, and he got upset. But it like, I noticed that every single plant is moving always. Yes. And this is something I then carried with me into my for the rest of my life, is like, if you look at any leaf, any bush, any flower, any tree, it's always swaying and moving.
I often wonder, I'm a forester, so I'm out around trees every single day. I often wonder how many times I'm looking at a tree when it's moving, but it's not the wind that's moving it. Like, do plants move on their own? Which they do. They grow, you know. And that's a really interesting thing to look at when you're like looking at a big old line of trees, and it's like, which one of you are actually moving right now and not being pushed by the wind?
Yeah, absolutely. So for some reason, this was very impactful for me to become sensitive in a new way to how living our natural world is, and how they're reaching out, for more sunlight, for more wind, for more nutrients, dancing around, playing. And so it was a very, very special experience. And I felt like I was downloading, ancient languages, and my notebook the next day was filled with like dwilf, nwilv, dwilv, dilv, lilv, nilv. And
that's elf language, sir.
so it was basically it opened me up to seeing that, wow, like there's so much more out there than I thought. And what I know is such a small thing. And so then fast forward this year in January, I tried ayahuasca for the first time. And to me, the effect is quite similar to a strong mushroom trip. But being able to do it sitting around in a circle with the accompaniment of music from different people, it gives it a structure that I really enjoy. And I was able to, like, for example, a question that I had was, why is it that I care so much what people think of me? Why is it that I always care so much about what people think of me? And in the ayahuasca ceremony, I remembered that when I was about 5 years old, I had just transitioned from living in France to living in Canada, and I had just gone to a new school, and I arrived in the classroom, and I didn't know anyone. And I remembered being there, and I remembered feeling like everyone kind of knew each other except for me. I was the outsider. And I thought, how am I going to make friends here? How can I make friends here? And what I decided on was, what I need to do is I need to be sensitive to what other people want to see and then act accordingly. And this will be my strategy for making friends. So I just paid attention to my classmates and to what they wanted to see and tried to act accordingly. And that's how I made my first friends. And so what I realized was that this basic strategy that I decided on as a 5-year-old became almost like one of my main strategies in the way my mind works for how to interact socially. And so in the ceremony, I was able to tell myself, like, thank you, David. Thank you to your mind for like deciding on the strategy that helped you make your first friends. Like, thank you. That was so helpful for you in those fragile times. But now you don't need to think about what other people think. It doesn't need to be your main social strategy, because it's limiting you. It's limiting you to, as far as like stepping up and following your heart and speaking out what you believe and like doing public speaking and this kind of thing. It's very much limiting you. So let's release that. You don't need it anymore. You don't need to carry this fear with you. So these are the kind of very interesting insights that you can get. And since then I felt much lighter. And I think it was probably in part because of that on that day in that auditorium, I had the chance to grab the microphone in front of 1,000 people. And of course, all kinds of doubts came into my mind. But
Sure.
Before that experience, I would have been like, no, it's not quite the right time. And I would have had some logical reasoning because of the underlying fear of like, but what will people think of me? I'm going to look like an idiot, But just it tipped the scales in the other direction. And I think we have all kinds of opportunities like that in our life to really go out of our way and do something really special and really good. And it can be just almost like a small internal difference of the way that you deal with the fear can like tip the scales in the other direction to pursuing something that you really believe in. So I'm so thankful for plant medicines, for what they've done for me, for flowering as a leader. And then I've seen countless other examples. Like I can go on with other examples if you're interested, but those were my personal ones.
That's great, man. The personal experiences are always the best because you give the most details, right? Why do I care? I had an experience. So let me give a backstory. Growing up, I grew hair on like my legs and my chest and my arms like way before any other guy did. So I was like super conscious about that, and like I tried like shaving it a lot like in high school, like early high school, and like just there's a lot of like self insecurities that came with that. And so um my junior year of high school, I had a mushroom experience where I I took a like pretty close to heroic dose. I didn't know what that was, so it was like 5 grams at the time. And it went bad. It like I had been doing psychedelics for a while before this, and everything was great, and I loved it. And I was just being really creative and exploring music through a different, like consciousness, really. But during this experience, my whole world just kind of started flipping inside out, and I was like viewing myself through the eyes of everyone else, looking around like through. It was a really weird experience. I don't know if I can explain that right now. But what ended up happening, everyone left and I was alone, and I was laying in a bed and I was like, I'm just going to try to sleep. But then I don't know what happened. I like ran in the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I thought I looked like a lion. Like I was me, but like I had taken a shower, and like something clicked, and I was just like, I'm fucking awesome. Like, no, like I'm a human. I'm an amazing human being, and so is everybody else. And I'm just going to love people and try to like grow the best, like honest self I can be, and just be empathetic and all of that. But it was literally that moment. And like from that point on, I didn't care. It was like, I just had this totally new, like positive perspective on life and the world. And it's kind of just grown ever since then. It's interesting.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, totally. That's my my self reflection right there. I had a question. When you did, this is something I don't really hear people talk about too much when they say that they've done ayahuasca and you did it like in a ceremony setting. Where did you do it? Like, so however you want to describe like the setting, and then like who made it and like what was it made out of? Because I know there's like different ways to make it. I've never tried it, so it'd be nice to hear your end of that.
Yeah, so here in Costa Rica, we're really lucky because there are some shamans that come from Peru and Colombia, and that bring the medicine, on the plane. And it's not exactly illegal here, actually. In fact,
Okay.
there's a few legal centers, but it's kind of a gray area. But anyways, there's a number of places here where these ceremonies are offered in a safe container. And so the times that I did it were with Peruvian shamans who have been studying with ayahuasca for 20 plus years. And they cook the medicine themselves. And it's a combination of two different plants, which it's a bark of a vine and also a bush. And it's a bit of a mystery, even like how they found out that those two together makes such a special substance. But they cook them together for, I think, like 20 hours, like singing the whole time, singing and mixing and cooking, and it becomes a very concentrated thing. And then they bring a few bottles to Costa Rica, and the ceremony is usually 5 to 7 hours. And it starts with the shaman whistling and singing and calling in the spirit of Mother Ayahuasca. And then it opens up to other musicians in the group who play different songs, and your senses become so heightened every pluck of the guitar string, it can be the most exquisite, interesting thing, and it brings on visions. And so you travel, and ayahuasca has a magic way of opening you up musically. And this is another amazing thing that has happened to me that I can't possibly explain to you the impact that this has had on my life, but I've been just kind of stuck with guitar, plateaued ever since college, playing the same 5 songs, and knowing that I enjoy guitar, but I've always thought that, I have a terrible voice and I just can't hear tones, and I suck, and like it's not for me, and I'm this and that, all these stories, right? Well, in this kind of setting, all the stories go out the window, and you just fall into the music, and you can accompany the music with an egg shaker, with little drums. And so I've been absolutely reborn as a musician through ayahuasca. It's unbelievable. And now I'm playing in the ceremonies, and people are like, "Oh my God, what a beautiful song. Unbelievable." I'm singing sounds that I never thought that I could possibly sing. And it's pure, like channeling, and like, and being in the present moment of just like feeling the music with your entire body and just letting it flow out of you without the filter of your intellect, thinking like, "Oh, is this too high? Is this too low? Is this on key or this?" No, all that goes out the window, and you just become one with the music. And it's such an exquisite state of flow. And being able to express yourself like that, it's so pleasurable and fulfilling. And this is something that I'm seeing over and over in ayahuasca ceremonies, is like someone who has never sung in their life suddenly gets called by the shaman to sing a song, and they just straight up let it out. And it's the most unbelievable song you've ever heard. And a musician is born,
Yes.
So that's a really cool thing about it, actually.
Good, man. That's really awesome.
And actually Sting is still like a prolific musician, and he says it's because of ayahuasca. Like when asked like, "Why do you still produce great music?" he says, "I take the right drugs." Like, and he comes down regularly to Costa Rica to drink ayahuasca.
Very cool.
So and I'm sure many famous musicians do it too, because there's a very special connection between music and ayahuasca. But actually, there's a very special connection between sound and healing, even in, like, for example, Tibetan meditation. The meditation, you're brought into a meditative state through repetitive songs and through gongs and bells and flutes, and they've known for thousands of years the connection between music and mindfulness. And now there's even scientific studies showing that the right vibrations sent to cancerous cells will kill cancerous cells. So it's so interesting, right? How sound and healing kind of dance together.
Yeah, especially when it comes from like deep within yourself too. And so sounding, that's really cool. I'm a musician first and foremost, and like when I was growing up, my dream was like, I'm gonna be a rock star. And then I've had opportunities to be in bands and travel the country and like do that, but I've always kind of just trusted my gut that wasn't the route I was supposed to take. Like, yeah, it would be super fun and super self-fulfilling, but I needed to go to school. I want to go to school. Like, I don't even care if it's the pressure of like the world telling me I need to do that or whatever, but like in my gut, I know I need to go. And I think I made the right choice, because now I'm in this position here where I have this podcast going, and music for me is healing in and of itself, because whenever I'm happy, whenever I'm upset, whenever I have a lot of anxiety, if I pick up my guitar and zone into it, like, I'm good. It helps me get out that aggression, that angst, that everything that weighs me down. And even though I walk away like still maybe upset, at least like that music and the channeling of the energy, like for those of you who've never been in a room with a guitar amplifier and you're blasting it, right? Like, you could be sweating by the time you're done just from the airwaves coming through. Like that stuff pounds you, especially when you crank it up loud. Like I don't know, it's interesting, and that's cool to hear you say that like with how it's a healing thing. That's why I've kind of opened up on this show for bands and anyone who has music to send it my way so I can feature it, because it's part of this, like it's that connection is there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful that you were able to find that companion, music as a way to express yourself throughout your life. It's a blessing.
Yeah, I was 3 years old and I was laying on the ground in the house we lived in Michigan at the time, and I had a little CD player, and the 2 CDs I had were a greatest hits CD of the Cars, and it was like 1995, so like 311's blue like self-titled album. I had those 2 when I was 3, and that's what like launched me in the music. I think there was like a Disney sing-along one there too or something, but yeah, that's where it all began.
I personally, I think like everyone is a musician. You just don't know it yet. And what's cool is that there's so many different instruments, right? Like there's some flutes where like all you have to do is just blow and, move your fingers around. It's very easy. And there's different drums and the triangle and piano and like I think that in the ideal world, like everyone would pick up an instrument and find the one that resonates with them, and then we could all just like jam together in one symphony of life.
You gotta not care. It goes back to that. That's the central issue, like caring too much what other people think. Like I can't tell you like the stories I've seen and heard myself, like of plants and fungi helping people to understand that their self-worth, even today, like even through all this healing and like everything I go through, that and how I like have confidence and all that, I still like when I go out and play guitar in front of people, I get nervous. We all get nervous, and like I don't play as well as immediately as well as like if I'm sitting right here on this couch. Eventually it comes out and I get calm, and I'm getting better at that, but yeah. So, thank you, plant medicine. We've been talking about psychoactive plants and fungi, but are we also including non-psychoactive as well? Like all the healing properties of every type of mushroom that's not a psilocybin mushroom, And for like the ecological healing that mushrooms can do, with like oyster mushrooms being mycoremedial.
Yeah, well, that's so important. The spirit of it is that everyone can come out with whatever story that they want, that they're grateful for, having to do with plant medicines. But the strategic focus of us as the organizers is to really focus on the communities that work with plants that are illegal, and that are really stigmatized.
And that makes sense.
So we're mainly reaching out to like the psilocybin community, the cannabis community, the ayahuasca community, the Iboga, San Pedro, peyote. But this is only a very limited, percentage of the plants and fungi that are beneficial for humanity, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
but all the other ones that I just listed are not illegal, and there's no stigma on them. People aren't educated on them nearly as much as they should be, but you can openly talk about that without scrutiny, as opposed to all of the consciousness healing ones that force you to face your demons, face everything within you that's causing this turmoil and causing gray matter to exist in your brain, because it's just such a traumatic experience you had that it's locking it all up, and you're walking around with this constant knot in your gut, and it kind of just helps bring all that to the surface. And it's a really, really beautiful, empowering experience that everyone can have with it. I guess there's some people that it wouldn't be right for, but with the right set and setting and intentions and all of that, there's great success that's been happening for arguably since humans have existed,
Yeah, absolutely. They're very powerful tools. They need to be used carefully. Just like a Porsche, it can kill someone if used in the wrong way. But if one person out of 1,000 dies in like an accident with a sports car, you never say like, oh, these sports cars should be illegal. No, you say like, right. Oh no, but they weren't using it in the right way. And it's silly that these plants are illegal, right? Like we have such a symbiotic relationship with plants in that, we eat them for survival. We breathe in what they breathe out. Why can't we use them for our, for healing our minds? Like, why is that illegal? It's a very kind of silly, strange thing. Yeah. So increased awareness will make the stigma disappear.
Awesome. So again, tell us the date and where to learn more about Thank You Plant Medicine and where to keep up with you, like online.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I even mentioned the date yet. So we're coming out on February 20th, 2020. Perfect. That's the day where we're going to create a wave of gratitude on social media saying thank you plant medicine, and each sharing our story using the hashtag thank you plant medicine. So if you want to be a part of this movement, contact us on Facebook. Thank You Plant Medicine is our page, or join our Facebook group, Thank You Plant Medicine Community. We also have a group in Spanish called Gracias Plantas Medicinales. And we're also on Instagram. And through our Facebook, you'll find the volunteer sign-up form. So if you want to actually like join the team, we'll hop on a call with you. We'll figure out, what would be the best fit. We'll put you on a team, and we have an amazing family of volunteers that you'll have a lot of fun working with us to reach out. And it's very much like kind of like a mycelium network, right? Like the plant medicine families around the world, they're all connected, and they're all have the best interest of the planet at heart. So yeah, please get connected with us, and let's make some magic happen together, because it's hard to do things by yourself, but when you get together with like-minded people, anything is possible. So that's the spirit of this.
That's really awesome, man. Thank you for all of that work you're doing there. And I definitely want to have you back on the show, like maybe like a week before 2020. Oh, it's so exciting. Thank you for your work. That's cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cool.
Again, this is Sheltered by the band Stick Figure. You just heard Dave Grillot from Thank You Plant Medicine. This is Mycoverse, the Mushroom Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, link, share. Dare to be amazing!